Hello everybody, Paul Plummer. Welcome back to PXP Endurance. I want to introduce Rick. Rick's one of our members here and he's done some amazing things. I want to tell a little bit about his story and then let him go on from there. Rick is a cancer survivor. He's kicked its tail. When I first met Rick, he was finishing up some treatments with prostate cancer, the treatments that go along with that and so forth. And shortly after that, he's like, Paul, I want you to coach me. And by the way, I want to do an Ironman 8 months from now. And so it was one of those like, you want a what? And it's just been amazing.
Thanks, Paul. So about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, and went through treatments, surgery, radiation. But from my last treatment in September of 18, shortly 11 months later, I completed the Ironman Wisconsin, and I couldn't have done it without Paul's help. It wasn't an easy task, but I had to relearn how to run. I had to get that endurance back, and Paul gave me a plan to get there. Along the way, we had an Ironman 70.3 up at Steelhead, and during that run, I was thinking, Paul's plan's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to make it through Ironman Wisconsin in a couple months. I stuck with the process. I stuck with the plan, and Paul's plan got me through Ironman Wisconsin. And it wasn't only Paul's plan that got me through Ironman Wisconsin. It was, the new stretches that I learned. It was the core work that I learned and the strength training exercises that I incorporated. And prior to being coached by Paul, whenever I could get a workout in, I got a workout in. But with Paul, there's a rhyme and a reason, and the three disciplines and the core and strength training are all integrated, in addition to the nutrition portion of it. So anyway, I wasn't overworking. I was being challenged, but I was resting along the way with built-in rest breaks, built-in rest days. So it was all planned. Ironman 70.3 Steelhead was just a stepping stone to Wisconsin. Steelhead wasn't the A race, we'll call it. So it wasn't set up for me to feel good. I mean, it was a training event. Fast forward to Wisconsin just a couple of months after Steelhead, and there I felt prepared, I felt ready. And I actually felt a breakthrough during the marathon portion. But, a few days prior to Ironman Wisconsin, I met with Paul. Paul wanted to go over just some strategy, my strategy against the clock. And the clock was going to be important because I had to be done by midnight. And again, I had to relearn how to run. That was going to be a challenge. So Paul said, one thing was, during the bike, you're going to have to do X number of miles per hour. Mm-hmm. And so I kept track of that, and then that got me to the run course, where then I could be the slow runner that I am. So it was, but the amazing thing after all that, and that was my fourth Ironman. I came back just because I wanted to do an Ironman post-cancer, and I couldn't have done it on my own, and I owe it to Paul that I finished. But what happened during that process is as if I just broke through a barrier and with my running, and I got done, and I told Paul, I said, now the Indianapolis Monumental Marathon, half marathon were coming up, and I thought, now I think I can run a half marathon at a decent effort, a decent pace. Wasn't happy with my prior mini marathon here in Indianapolis because I wasn't able to sustain an effort. So, it grew. It built on one thing, and during that portion, we hit the track. We were doing speed workouts, and my confidence level went through the roof. Not running is now favorite discipline again, what it was prior to my health issues. So, but just some of the little things that I got from Paul was, when I'm running and I'm complaining, Paul, I'm not getting any faster, I feel so slow. Well, why don't you pick up your cadence? Why don't you speed things up on your cadence? Why don't you engage your core? Here are some things to look at. Start integrating some pace work on the normal runs, and then drop it back down for a mile, and then pick it back up for a mile. So we're adding variety to things. So, I've been with Paul for a couple years, and this year we were going to train for Traverse City 70.3. Unfortunately, that fell through, but I still did the 70.3 on my own, virtually. One of the things, it's kind of been, I've had to get some treatments, and even with that 70.3 this summer, through Paul's training program and guidance, even when I had to start chemotherapy, I was able to get through it. So Paul knows, he knew my limitations, he worked with those limitations, and we kind of got around those limitations and exceeded my expectations and accomplished my goals.
Rick, you're amazing. And what some of you may or may not understand in this conversation or pick up on this is, through all those pieces, Rick didn't just start running 2 years ago. He finished some cancer prior to that. He'd done several half marathons. He'd done several full Ironman events and that sort of thing. And you hear him talking about having to relearn pieces. Many of us, we've been doing things for a long period of time, and yet we still can learn or tweak some of those pieces. You don't all have to get cancer to go back and learn some of those pieces. One of the things I'd like to ask you, many of you can relate to this story, you can relate to growing and having challenges, that kind of stuff, is do you want to get it? Rick, through this process, has given me a lot of praise on it, and I'm very thankful for those pieces. But the reality it comes down to, I just get to show you guys how to do things and take away some of those limiters. I really appreciate what all you've done.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon.